Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, at the same time, in London's Parliament, the Parliament decision to clear the way to Brexit will be a defining moment for the country. Theresa May told that to MPs today, warning that the Scottish National Party should not create uncertainty or division with another independence vote. But in Edinburgh, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is pressing ahead regardless, saying it should be up to Scotland to decide the timings and the terms. Also wading into the argument today, Spain's Foreign Minister, who warned that an independent Scotland would have to join the queue of countries waiting to join the EU. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, has this.
Prime Ministers always report back to the Commons after EU summits, but the day after Parliament cleared the path for Brexit, this was no ordinary update.
This will be a defining moment for our whole country as we begin to forge a new relationship with Europe and a new role for ourselves in the world.
Actually, it doesn't feel that defining, because as of yesterday, two giant issues vie for Cabinet attention.
Mr Mundell, will you agree to Nicola Sturgeon's timetable?
People in Scotland don't want another independence referendum, and there shouldn't be one.
Will you give her permission to hold one? Is Brexit breaking up Britain, Mr Davis? When will you trigger Article 50?
Just after her Cabinet, Nicola Sturgeon fired off tweets attacking an idea that's been doing the rounds in Number 10, that the SNP should be told no referendum unless you win a majority at the next Holyrood elections. Nicola Sturgeon compared the Tories' general election share of the vote and the SNP Holyrood vote. Trading mandates does not put the PM on strong ground, she wrote. I was elected as First Minister. The Prime Minister is not yet elected by anyone. In the Commons, SNP MPs jeered as Theresa May described her contribution to the European summit.
And at this council, I called for further steps to complete the single market and the digital single market.
Later, the SNP mocked this declaration.
The new relationship with the EU that we negotiate will work for the whole of the United Kingdom. That is why we have been working closely with the devolved administrations including the Scottish Government.
Nicola Sturgeon mocked that idea yesterday. She also said she wanted an independent Scotland to be a member of the European Union. Spain's governing party doesn't want to make that easy, doesn't want to spur on the Catalonian independence movement.
My opinion is that Scotland will be out of the European Union and should go to the back of the queue. Then to apply again, to go into the European Union as a third member state, and a new member state, and with normal conditions. These normal conditions, I don't know, but in many cases runs about 10 years.
Catalonia is for the Spanish government really a nightmare. And they try to avoid everything which is related with the possibility of becoming independent Catalonia. So, but that's totally impossible. I mean, as I said, Scotland is a country which accomplishes the requirements. It's ridiculous to say that it will come after Turkey, which doesn't accomplish anything at all, or after Kosovo. No, it will not happen.
After years of warm relations between the SNP and the Catalonian independence movement, the SNP last week tried to woo Madrid politicians, saying the party was now neutral on Catalonia. That was news to Catalonia's foreign minister today on a visit to Parliament. Stephen Gethins, the Europe spokesman for the party, went to Madrid last week and said that they didn't support Catalonian independence anymore.
I'm not aware of that. Anyway,
that would surprise you.
Well, what I would think is
they're trying to get on good terms with Madrid, aren't they?
The thing is that we have been always respecting each other, and that is the logic in that sense.
Theresa May insists public opinion is with her and doesn't want a Scottish independence referendum before Brexit. Opinion polls over the coming days will suggest who is winning the first phase of that debate.
Gary Gibbon reporting there. Well, welcome back to the Oranmore Whiskey Bar in Glasgow, where already the talk is of another independence referendum, even though it could be 2 years off. So will the next vote be as much a referendum on staying in the EU as on breaking away from the UK? What is clear is that Scottish voters rejected Brexit, 62% of them to be exact. But whether that means the nationalist cause has a better chance this time is quite another matter. Our political correspondent Michael Crick has been talking to voters along the Fife coast.
Northeast of Edinburgh, up the coast, you come to the picturesque East Neuk of Fife. Small fishing villages, though the industry's not what it was. These parts show how, for many Scots, an independent Scotland and a Scotland staying in the European Union don't always go hand in hand. What about Brexit last year? Did you vote for that to leave?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, the EU's done none for the fishing fleet. It's done none for me. Nothing but hassle.
So you're quite happy to carry on as part of the United Kingdom and leave Europe?
Yep, yes.
In the Pittenweem shop, more local fishermen.
I'm in favour of an independent Scotland, but I'm not wanting to be dragged back into Europe.
Because Nicola Sturgeon seems to think that by having another independence referendum, that's a way that Scotland can stay in Europe.
No.
No, we don't want to stay in Europe.
We don't want to stay in Europe.
We do not want to stay in Europe. Definitely no. We're needing to get our seas back. Everything that we owned before, we need to try and get everything back.
So how would you vote in a referendum then? You vote for independence or not?
No, vote no.
You vote no?
Vote no.
In the smaller fishing port of Crail, Ben and Jane Grieve own a family pottery. It's difficult for them, having voted no to independence and to remain in the EU.
Scotland is a small country, and I think it would be a shame to leave Britain as a separate country.
So you value the union of England and Scotland slightly more than the European Union?
I think I do, yes, I do, yeah.
But it's a thorny issue, and his wife is leaning the other way.
I'm not keen on independence, but if it took that, I would probably still want to remain in Europe. Yeah.
So you'd buy that, would you? You'd say an independent Scotland in Europe?
Yeah, it's hard really, isn't it? It's a hard decision to make, but I think we're safer in Europe, and I think financially we're better off in Europe.
This afternoon in Dundee, we dropped in on a former SNP leader who's rather at odds with the current leadership. Though he'll fight for a yes vote, Gordon Wilson says this second referendum is at the worst possible time. He himself actually voted for Brexit.
And I did so because I didn't want to be part of Fortress Europe or the Fourth Reich, as I call it, because of the Lisbon Treaty with its own armed forces.
I mean, you said last week that for Scotland, EU membership is non-deliverable.
Yes. That's
non-deliverable, clearly. Nicola Sturgeon thinks it's very deliverable.
Well, that's my opinion, that there are 27 other countries which are capable of vetoing Scotland's membership, or at least being bureaucratic and saying, yes, we have great sympathy for your pro-European sentiments, but process is process and you're the end of the line, to quote an American expression.
And he says eventually joining could take decades.
Happily so, but it remains to see how the negotiations go.
This country's second referendum could be even more confusing than the first. Voters ostensibly will have to choose between the two unions, but they could end up with neither.
Well, with me now, the journalist and broadcaster Leslie Riddoch and writer and activist Vonnie Moyes, who both support Scottish independence. And on the pro-union side, we have the former Labour MSP, Graham Pearson, who leads the pro-UK campaign group Scotland in Union, which launched today, and Stephen Daisley, who's a columnist for the Scottish Daily Mail. Leslie Riddoch first. A third of SNP voters backed Brexit. Might they desert independence if the campaign becomes all about remaining in the EU?
Well, I mean, there's a big debate to be had actually about the EU because there's a halfway house called the EEA. It's what Iceland and Norway are in. They pay to have access to the single market, but they don't have the common fisheries policy or the common agricultural policy.
Yeah, but that relies on Westminster tangoing with you, doesn't it?
Well, actually, if you're an independent country, you could decide which route you wanted to take. And the point is that at the moment, that's why I think Nicola Sturgeon has been so insistent on trying to get a deal that allows access to the single market, because that's the important bit for Scotland. It allows the trade, it allows the freedom of movement that we need, because we need immigration here. So all of that could be an attractive cluster, but technically it would allow you to get away with not having some of the policies that people find difficult about the EU.
Stephen Daisley, are some pro-union voters sufficiently pro-European that they might actually switch to independence?
Well, that's the $64,000 question, or rather the 51% question. If Nicola Sturgeon can get people to do that, that is how she can win. I think Nicola Sturgeon's thinking is that there will be a greater loyalty among some people to the single market of the EU rather than the single market of the UK. The problem being that 4 times of Scotland's trade is done with the UK single market. And so you're not just asking a question of heart, you're also asking a question of head at the same time.
That's the problem. I mean, can you answer that point on the trade? I mean, do you worry about the economic instability, even though you backed independence last time?
I do, and I'm coming from this having been a yes voter last time, someone who was freshly politically franchised and who really got behind the campaign. But now, my politics were quite inchoate at that time, and I feel that over the last 3 years they've really matured in some way. And I think that now is the time that even as a yes voter and someone who's really pro-independence, we need clear economic arguments, we need a clear case. It's not a hearts and minds job anymore, it's facts and figures, and I think that's true across the board because the context has changed.
And the unionists have got all the positive economic arguments, haven't they? I mean, look at the oil price, for example.
They do, and I think the case for independence is that we have to show that even though it is about numbers, that we have to consider in what other ways we might be better off, and making the case for a growth nation as well. What's the potential that we have to tap into going forward?
Look, the independent supporters are up and running here. They've got all their arguments down pat. Graham Pearson, you launched today, but is your party, Labour, ready? I mean, Jeremy Corbyn was pretty lukewarm in his support for the union, wasn't he?
Well, I don't know if the party is ready. I represent Scotland and the Union, and that's a non-party organisation.
But you yourself are Labour?
I was Labour. I've left the Labour Party and taken a neutral stance in this.
But you want Labour to be part of that team, don't you?
We want everybody who supports the notion that we should maintain in Britain and be part of the United Kingdom to come on side. There seems to be an understanding amongst some of the nationalists that the only opinion that matters is those who want to be independent. Over 2 million people voted the last time, and there's still a very strong view there that wants to be heard. Scotland and Union will give them their voice and allow them to be heard to say, we don't want a referendum, we were promised once in a lifetime. The last time was too painful. We shouldn't be going there again.
Stephen Daisley, I mean, you've heard these two ladies have got their arguments up and running. Graham, not even sure that Labour's ready. Is the Unionist campaign ready? The Unionist campaign had better get ready. I think behind the scenes there will be preparations being made, but I think that they have to strike early. It's true, whether it will be called Yes or Leave, we're not sure what the question will be, but the pro-independence side is up and running. It's got a campaign, it's got a website, it's doing fundraising, and the Unionist side cannot afford to be complicit this time.
Can I say, this isn't about political parties and politicians. This is about real people. And real people need to come out. We've got a silent minority in Scotland who need to be heard.
But they can't lead the campaign, though, can they?
No, they can't lead the campaign.
So who's going to?
And we'll find people who come forward. But communities will come forward and help us.
But that isn't important. I mean, sure it is. I mean, we're all sitting here as non-political party people, but there is a big difference, a couple of big differences from last time. And one of the big differences is that no one could be confident that there could be a Labour government for years, perhaps even decades to come. Last time round, it was the familiar face of Gordon Brown and Alistair Darling, Scots, that led the cause. And this time round, it's not that. So there's quite a change in perspective for people.
The problem, though, with that argument from Leslie, and I do accept it to some extent, is that the flip side is also true, that it's unlikely that we're going to see another government other than the SNP at Holyrood anytime soon. And so the SNP and indeed Nicola Sturgeon has become much more divisive now. So it's much easier for the Union side to say a vote for independence is a vote for long-term government by the SNP.
Beyond that, I thought as well that, you know, the no vote last time was a vote for maintaining the status quo. There is no status quo to maintain now. Change is the inevitable constant. So it's on balance which is better, which is most likely going to give us the most control and the ability to maintain things that are best for ordinary people.
Bonnie, you've written about how bitter the campaign was last time. I mean, give us a flavour of how little you want to go back to that.
To be honest, I've spent the last 3 years trying to knit bits of my life back together. Lots of my friends and family are no voters, and as much as I believe in independence, I allowed yes to get in the way of friendships, family, relationships. I've got no desire to do that anymore. But I don't think this is about division. It's the fact that we have got to be a nation together on the other side of this vote. So the campaign can't be yes and no. It can't pit us against each other. It's what's on offer for all of us on the other side.
It is going to be divisive,
well,
isn't it?
Yes, but I mean, that's because there is an inherent division of opinion. It's not that the independence vote is stoking it up. It's that it's allowing that division that exists to be manifest. And can I just say, I did not have a terrible independence campaign. I have not had massive arguments. My late mum voted no. That's fine.
I don't think that truly reflects the reality out in the street. There was enormous division, and there was a lot of stoking of emotion on both sides. I'm not saying it was one-sided argument.
Was there beyond a couple of eggs thrown at Jim Murphy?
No, I saw people in the public street white with fear and shaking. You're
an ex-cop. You're an ex-cop. Who was arrested? What convictions were there for any violence?
I have no idea, but you know yourself, police won't become involved in political argument. But people did suffer, and to say they didn't would be wrong.
There is an important point here.
I would love to carry this on. The argument is up and running. We'll continue it off air, but that's all from me in Glasgow. Back to you, John.
Kathy, thank you.
I've been getting